What's going on, guys? So, enough of you have asked for some information on what's going on and how the real estate world's changing. Is everything crumbling into ashes and should we all be panicking? Well, I'm here to tell you I want you to forget everything that the news is telling you, that your friend that's a mechanic or your cousin that is a hairstylist that happens to have a realtor license has told you. I'm kind of joking about that, but honestly not really, so apologies to your cousin. Yes, forget about that. I'm going to try to package the information in a succinct way as much as I can. It's probably going to be 5 or 6 minute long video. We'll see what happens. And yeah, absorb as much of it as you can and call me later with some questions. But basically, what is changing in our real estate world are two things, essentially. And I'm going to explain exactly what this means and implies for sellers, for buyers, and for agents, and even for those of you guys who are not in the market, which are most of you, probably 90% of you right now that are watching this, just so you're prepared to make a move when the time comes and you have the right info. So, change number one. The public advertisement of the buyer agent fee is being absolutely removed. That's it. So it's not that sellers are no longer required to pay a fee. It's not that the 6% commission is going away, or the 3% paid to the buyer, or the 2.5%, whatever is standard in your market, is going away. It's the fact that it cannot be publicly advertised any longer. So what does this mean for a seller? Well, all this means is a seller now and a buyer's agent now have no prior commitment on the amount a buyer agent will make. Whereas before, regardless of the type of offer you received, right? Your agent promises you that you're going to get a $1.2 million offer for your house, a $2.5 million offer for your house, whatever it may be. Whereas before, there would be a predetermined fee, let's say 2.5%, which is quite standard in the neighborhoods that I serve here in Pasadena. Even if you received an offer below your list price, you still would have that 2.5% fee built into the buyer's agent. Regardless of the quality of the offer, regardless of the quality of the agent, sellers still would commit that amount publicly. That's going away. All that's changing now is that the seller's willingness to offer a commission to the buyer's agent is going to be dependent and negotiated on an offer-to-offer scenario. So now, if you get an offer below that nets you below what you want for your house, if you're the seller, you don't have to pay that buyer fee. The buyer's agent is responsible for communicating with your agent as the seller, with your agent, whether they would be able to get a fee through their seller, given that the offer is sufficient and high enough for them to be able to take that hit. And I think this is a huge advantage for sellers because before, sellers would negotiate against themselves. And what I'm advising my clients is, let's not do that. Let's put the burden on the buyer's agents to present an offer that's strong enough for it to make sense to pay them a fee. And if not, then not. Let me kind of break this down in a simple way. What I'm saying here is what matters as a seller is how much you pocket. Paying a fee does not matter. Option number one, you accept an offer at $1 million and you pay a 1% fee. You pay $10K in commissions total. You pocket $990,000. Option two, you get an offer for $1.1 million. You pay a 5% fee, which is $55K, so you pocket $1,045,000. Which offer are you taking? The one that you pay a 1% or a 5% fee? You're going to take offer number two, unless you really don't like that other agent. But if you're a seller, I would recommend, and I'd recommend you take offer number two because my job is to get you the most out of your home. So basically, what this is not preventing is sellers paying commissions, but what it is preventing is sellers negotiating against themselves. And what do I mean by that? Well, before, if a seller offered 2.5%, 3% to all buyer's agents, there are some agents out there who would have worked for 1%. You never know. Someone with a cousin they're doing a favor for, they would have worked for 2%. Many agents out there are accepting offer for 2% because they believe that's what they're worth or that's a level of the quality of service they provide. So why commit to pay more than we have to? Let them decide and present an offer that makes sense for us. So sellers are in control of this. I don't see this being a net negative for sellers in any way whatsoever. In some cases, they'll pay a commission. In some cases, they won't. In the cases they won't will be when buyers have already committed to pay that fee for their agents, which is a perfect transition to my next topic. This video is going to be way too long, but it's okay. This is important. So how does it affect buyers? This is where it gets kind of sticky. Well, a lot of buyers are concerned that, hey, if sellers are no longer offering a public commission and not committing, my shoulder's hurting, and not committing that publicly to my agent as my buyer, they're not committing a fee to my buyer's agent. So what happens if we can't get that fee? Am I going to pay that as the buyer? I don't want that, right? House is already expensive enough, especially in the San Gabriel Valley here in California. Rates are not really too friendly. The last thing I need, especially as a first-time buyer right now, is to come out of pocket another $30,000, $40,000 and delay my timeline even more and deal with the higher prices that take place when that time comes. That would be terrible, right? Well, this is what people are concerned about, and I'm here to tell you, don't be concerned about it, because that's not necessarily the case. Just like we said in the previous example, if we flip the scenario, this means that as long as a buyer is able to make an offer that makes sense for the seller to still pay a commission, then you are essentially financing that commission the same way you always did. Now, this is a little bit hard to follow, and this will probably be a separate video that would be required, or a conversation with me directly so I can explain it. But basically, as long as your agent, as a buyer's agent, is able to communicate to you properly and determine your maximum allowable investment into a home or your budget, and communicate with the seller agent properly, and assuming that the seller is logical and only cares about how much they pocket as opposed to how much of a fee they pay to the buyer's agent, then essentially nothing has changed, and it's up to your agent to determine what kind of an offer to make to still be able to pocket a home without coming out of pocket more than you ever would have. And if your agent is super trained on this, they'd be able to not only have you avoid paying commissions, but have you avoid paying closing costs altogether with the proper communication. But this has to do with how much buying power you have, which is always step one in your search for a home. And my point here is there's nothing to worry about. Nothing has changed. If an offer is high enough and you have to pay a fee to pocket that high offer, then so be it. It's logical, and the market operates logically, and it will continue to operate logically. As long as agents are trained to communicate logically with other agents, then there will be no issues and no bumps in the road, and we'll have business as usual. Now, that is a perfect transition to the second change that's happening in the market, and that change is buyers being required to have a written agreement, with their agents before even seeing a home, let alone needing to write an offer on a home. Now, if I'm a buyer, I'm wondering, why the hell would I do that? What am I used to, right? I'm used to my cousin hitting me up and being like, oh, you want to buy a house? Yeah. And he says she or he will be right back, and they send me some houses, and then they write the offer and they get paid, and the seller covers the fee, so don't even worry about it. Well, that's changing, right? Well, why would I want to write or sign a written agreement as a buyer if I didn't have to before? Well, you would sign one because you believe you should. Why would you believe you should? Because the agent showed you exactly how they're going to help you not only find you a house. What is your agent going to do to find you opportunities that other buyers do not see? Off-market opportunities, internal opportunities. What are they going to do to produce opportunities in a market like this when inventory is so scarce, to find you a house that others don't see, to reduce competition? Then what are they going to do in this competitive market to get it under contract? And then what are they going to do to get it closed? The burden is now on the buyer's agents to present to buyers exactly what they do to help them understand their needs, how they're going to satisfy their needs, and enough so that buyers are willing to sign this agreement, because it's going to be required. Now, what does this mean for buyers? It means that now you're going to have agents competing with each other to get your business, whereas before there was no burden to do so. And that mechanic or that hairstylist that happened to have a real estate license, probably bye-bye. I'm sorry. Probably bye-bye. Why? Because they're not used to, they only have their real estate license because they can go write you an offer without having to explain their value or get a contract. Well, now there's the same burden and expectation and level of excellence and professionalism and integrity and communication and dedication and persistence expected from buyer's agents as there was for listing agents. And this is a beautiful thing for the market, because the level of representation that buyers will receive has officially gone up or will go up officially in July. The transactional circumstances for sellers has improved because they no longer need to negotiate for themselves or against themselves. And agents who are serious will now be surrounded with colleagues that are not 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the industry. No more non-serious agents, more professionals that are focused on bettering themselves and improving their ability to help their clients every single day. I think this is a beautiful thing. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, which you should, then just give me a text, give me a call, reply to this email, and let me know what I can answer, what can I make a video about. And I'd ask myself, is my agent able to communicate this to me and answer this with confidence? Do they believe this is a positive change or a negative change? And if any of those responses are not what you'd want to hear, then I'd ask myself why that's the case. Thanks, guys. Until next time.